I think some of this is literally him going, this is my toy box now, and these are my favorite toys. You have your favorites, but I'm the guy in charge.
Yeah.
I'm going to withhold judgment until I see these things.
I have notes.
I have stuff in my head, but I'm glad you wrote down things.
James Gunn dropped the big news finally this morning.
Last day of the month.
Yeah.
Just under the wire.
Once he waited until, he didn't wait until we recorded the show to announce it. He very conveniently dropped this 3 hours ago.
And you did lots of research, didn't you?
Yeah. It was 9 a.m. your time, right? And 11 a.m. Central.
I was asleep, but but I woke up and wanted to check, and I am anxious to hear your thoughts. I've got thoughts. It was very James Gunn. One thing I will say right off the bat, way to go, keeping a lid on it.
Yeah.
I mean, in this day and age, literally, there were no leaks. People were speculating. We were speculating, but nope, nothing got leaked. And
even with the big event yesterday, apparently, that he talked to a bunch of press people yesterday, not a peep from anyone.
I have a feeling that was under, threat of lawsuits and they're like, okay, we won't say a word. What an interesting slate. And it started with the very first thing he announced, I was like going, oh boy. I was like, well, that's James Gunn. There's never been a more James Gunn thing than to say, here's your new DC universe, starting with Creature Commandos.
Yeah, which I know nothing about.
Oh,
there's a few things on this I'm not familiar with, so that's good because I can be the straight man to your exposition.
Okay. I thought I was going to do something different there. Yeah, I mean, Creature Commandos was a favorite of mine, mainly because and yet I've never for once thought that should be adapted or turned into anything, because it's a real goofy. DC had a long line of weird war stuff, usually set in World War II. You had the War That Time Forgot, where it's World War II soldiers fighting against dinosaurs on an island, this kind of stuff. And they had G.I. Robot, who was a G.I. Robot, and Unknown Soldier. So Creature Commandos is one of those groups, and it was this thing where a military experiment has created specialized soldiers that all just happen to kind of look and seem like classic monsters. So you have a vampire, you have a werewolf, you have a Frankenstein's monster on the team. And clearly, they're not doing the World War II thing, and I'm sure that it's all updated. I looked at that art and I was like, okay, they're doing some different things, but it's still Monster Squad. It's a monster military squad. And I'm just like, all right, James, okay. And that one's animated, right? Did you say it was animated?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, if that's art that they're going to be using or character designs, it looks really good.
He did say, too, I think it was during this segment, that the animated stuff is going to be tied in very closely with the live stuff, and he's going to try to get the same actors as often as he can.
Yeah, so cool. It's cool. It's interesting. Like, if that did become a thing, it's sort of like, are you on retainer? Like, he's hiring people that don't only sound right. If they go live action, they will also look like the characters. So you're like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because usually they don't. They just go with a voice. For instance, we're getting an Ahsoka Tano show, and Rosario Dawson was not the voice actress for Ahsoka Tano. Mm-hmm. She's great, but I'm sure that the voice actor's like, I'm over here.
Yeah.
So no, that was the first thing, and an animated series. There's not a single thing that he announced that I was like, oh. but I'm surprised at how non-core he's being.
Yeah.
core meaning, I'm so glad we're getting some focus on Superman and Supergirl. Great. But
Yeah.
then, and Batman to some degree, but I'm like, well, Wonder Woman's touched on, but there's not a Wonder Woman project. There's not a Flash. We do have lanterns. It's not like a Hawkman thing or anything. It's really things that surprised me. And I have big thoughts on Authority, but we're not there yet. So that was the first one.
Okay. Yeah, let's back up to the whole
Oh,
thing.
great. Now we're backing up.
Because
God
Creature Commandos was the first thing that falls under the Gods and Monsters name.
Yeah, they've given instead of phase 1 and phase 2 like Marvel, they're calling their things like chapters. Like this is Gods and Monsters chapter.
Yeah, which is cool. So the first thing he announces is he officially gives these other films an Elseworlds moniker.
Yes,
the Batman, the Joker, and what was it? Teen Titans Go or something? What did he say? Titans Go?
Yeah, Teen Titans Go.
I don't know what basically, that is.
Oh, it's a kid's cartoon. Okay. Sorry, I should just say cartoon. I know a lot of adults like it too.
So I guess those are the three things that were already in production. Not the only three things, but that.
Oh, I think was he
didn't cancel?
Yes, and wasn't he also broadening it to include Aquaman and Flash? I think that.
Well, this is where he goes into next, and this is where it's a little vague. As to what is going on, and I think that he's not trying to throw water. He's trying to not throw water on the stuff that's already.
He's encouraging you that this is part of.
He can't pretend doesn't exist.
Yes,
but he doesn't. He wants people to still go see these films and sell some money. So Shazam, which was interesting to hear him say this because it was not too long ago. We had that video that Eli, what's his name?
Zachary Levi.
Zachary Levi put out saying very pessimistically, saying, "Well, I guess that's it or whatever. It's out of my hands, but I have faith in where they're going and all this stuff. And hey, but now they're saying he made it sound like, well, Shazam is like one of the characters. He's kind of, what did he say?
He said he's in his own little world anyway.
He said it connects very nicely to the thing. And I was like, does he mean literally like canonically connects, or does it just mean they're getting this out of the way before?
This from his language, which I'm sure got picked over, even though he's the guy in charge. I'm sure there was a lot of him and Peter Safran going, you should say it like this.
Right.
But what I have a feeling what that means is he's not anti. They're going to wait to see the money. They're going to wait to see how well it does. So it could be the end. And he's like going, oh, no, it's its own little thing. Enjoy Shazam. But if it takes off, then he's like going, well, sure. It's part of the multiverse. Maybe our new Superman will meet Zachary Levi as Captain Marvel.
Yeah, okay.
Or Shazam.
Then he does elucidate, because many people have theorized that the Flash, this Flash movie was intended to reset.
Yeah.
To reset the DCEU into the DCU. Now that's made, but he's basically made that official. It's resetting.
I don't think that was the initial, because that was before they came on, but he's using it because it does set up, and we knew this going back, it does set up multiverse stuff.
Yeah.
So this is his saying like, great. It's like Flashpoint, the literal series that came out just a few years ago, where the Flash breaks apart the multiverse basically. And so they're doing the same thing here, where essentially they're waiting to see how it does. They're waiting to see how Ezra Miller's treatment goes, whether they're going to keep him, whether they're going to keep them. But the whole thing is, he's basically saying, and I was really surprised to hear him say, goes, one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. He says this about the Flash movie. This James Gunn says that. And I was like, okay. I mean, that's a ringing endorsement. And I know there's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah. But
basically, I think at the end, maybe they tack on a button scene where Gunn's like going, all right, this is where I'm going to announce, or this is where our Superman walks in, or something. They'll do something like that.
Right. Yeah, there'll be some kind of hint. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
That's the intention. But I thought it was funny that he talked. There was only a handful of things he really went into detail, or not detail, but he had some pretty emphatic words to say about this one. He's like, I love this great movie.
I know.
He could
And
not say that. That's the thing. I believe him, but it's also like they had to. He couldn't just say, okay, so then the Flash is coming out.
He's a director, and a lot of directors are essentially actors themselves. I'm like, maybe he is just like, it didn't seem false when he's like going, this is one of the greatest superhero films I've ever seen. Right. I actually believe him.
Yeah.
And I was at least very curious. Like, unfortunately, Ezra Miller's Flash is so Snyderverse that my expectations or desire to see it were pretty low, except for the whole thing of in bringing back Michael Keaton's Batman. I'm like, okay, I do want to see that. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
And a new Supergirl who's not, who's his daughter, and that's the dark-haired Supergirl that they were going to have in it. So,
okay.
You've seen pictures of her, haven't you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, she's apparently the daughter of Christopher Reeves and Margot Kidder's Superman and Lois.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because they canonically say that Christopher Reeve's Superman shares a universe with Michael Keaton's Batman, so they are part of the same universe.
Really?
They have said that, yeah.
Okay.
Which is weird. Like Gotham was a weird city back in 1978.
That's cool though. So all right, so then the last Snyder thing here, which again this is already has, and I'm sure people will continue to say this until they get clarification. They say, "Oh, what's his name? Damn it,
Jason Momoa."
Momoa. He's saying, "Yeah, this is proof that Momoa is going to remain the Aquaman." I think that he's trying to couch his language in a safe way, because he says, and then Aquaman, it's a great, perfect movie to lead into the new stuff. He says leading into. And then it's only after that he gets into Gods and Monsters. It's right after that. So,
no, he also brings up Blue Beetle.
That's right, Blue Beetle, right? Yeah, you're right.
And Blue Beetle,
Gods and Monsters. I guess you're right. Yeah,
yeah, because it's already. I mean, it stars the kid from Cobra Kai, who I like, and he's a good choice. And Blue Beetle is just sort of like they were saying. This he doesn't say that that's the one that leads into.
I thought it was Aquaman.
Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe it was Aquaman, but I'm just sitting there going like, it is amazing how he seems to be saying there's a home for all of this. However, once my stuff kicks in, that's the DCU.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, all right, man. Creature Commandos, bring it on.
Right. Yeah. So we're into Gods and Monsters. He mentions Creature Commandos, and then here comes the biggest thing in the whole list is the Waller series. And I'm like, well, I knew that there was other Peacemaker universe stuff happening, but I guess I'm assuming this is one of several things that was already in production before he was probably even hired as
I don't think so.
As a CEO. Do you think this is new?
Yeah.
This is where because my reaction to this whole thing was kind of a mixture of cool and huh? No, this is one thing where I'm like, what?
Well,
why?
Here's what I think he's doing there. And I think everything from this point on is him and Peter Safran and people that they've scouted to, pitch. But I have a feeling that Waller is a James Gunn conceived follow-up to Peacemaker.
Right.
Because for one thing, you've got Viola Davis. And it's another thing where, yes, that technically is tied to Snyderverse, but who's to say that the Amanda Waller in the proper DCU is not also Viola Davis? So it's like, okay, you can ignore what he did. So Peacemaker, I think, because he says Waller's going to have her with a lot of the Peacemaker people. Mm-hmm. And I think this will be kind of a Suicide Squad show.
Yeah.
It's just going to be called Waller, but I'm sure it's going to have a rotation of she's forced to use or work with low-grade heroes or C-list villains to do things and so forth. And of course, also get into the awesome character that is Amanda Waller. Basically, give Viola Davis something to do because she's so good. She should not just show up for 2 minutes as Amanda Waller and say stuff. So, I don't know what to expect, but that was also a surprise. It was like, all right, live action Amanda Waller show.
Because I hear him thinking, okay, Teen Titans,
I know. That's why I say the core stuff is so not there. I was surprised. It does seem like James Gunn. It's like if he had started the Marvel Universe and it wasn't Kevin Feige, and if he had started with Guardians of the Galaxy, you would have been like, what? One thing I
yeah,
think the
it's true.
MCU did very well, even unintentionally, was start with these introductions of the big characters, and then they spread out and get weirder. Guardians could not have happened. It would have still been fun, but it would not have launched the MCU. It would have been like a what movie if you had not already built that core.
Yeah.
So it seems very James Gunn to be talking about Amanda Waller and the Authority and Creature Commandos, where I'm sitting there going, pardon me. Yes, Brendan Jones in the back here. Where is Firestorm? Hello?
Yes.
Is Zatanna not to be found? Where is Zatanna, please? Hello?
Yeah.
Is that a good impression of me? I don't know. I don't have a good idea of my own voice.
That's dead on you, yeah.
Pardon me, Mr. Smalley. In your notes there, does it happen to mention anything about elongated man?
So yeah, he does say this is just a sampling of where we're going. This is just the beginning. There's lots of more stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to my Italian accent, apparently. There's lots of more stuff coming.
Hey, what do you want?
So then he says,
it's a big list, which does feel like that's at least 3-4 years, 5 years.
Even though there's some things in here, I mean, this doesn't have everything I was hoping to hear in the first go, but it's way more. It's a big, you said it's a bigger list than I was expecting him to start off with.
We are going to be old men before we get a proper Justice League, Chad. We're going to be doing this podcast as 70-year-olds going,
yep.
Finally, thank you, Mr. Gunn.
So then then he says, the true beginning of the DCU, which is Superman Legacy.
I missed that part. Did he mention Superman?
And again, he without mentioning All-Star Superman, cover of All-Star Superman, by the way. That's the only thing he shows in conjunction with it.
Only thing he shows, and it has a yellow S on the back of the cape.
It has my yellow S, yes, which I was just talking about. And so this is, I actually went, after this news broke, I realized that everything we talked about in the last episode about All-Star Superman and what James Gunn may do with it is still relevant. So I cut that out into a separate piece from the episode and put it out
of course.
A couple hours ago, just like get that out there. So that was good. So just FYI, people, we can refer you back to the last episode to hear about what we think they should do with it. But you went into great detail at what I thought was the most salient point to take out of it as to why he's propping up All-Star Superman without comment.
Oh, yeah.
It's the issue of, the moving on from superhero shame, which I don't know if that's, verbatim what he's thinking, but that's got to be a huge part of it. Why he's so enamored with that as being Superman, this one.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole that's exactly the one. It's just that you don't and he could be using it as a prop for many reasons. One might be a clue as to story matter, subject matter. It could be aesthetic, like this is a perfect aesthetic, or maybe it is just like a dog whistle to Superman fans that Grant Morrison's absolute embrace of everything that is Superman is what we're going to be doing as well. So it is a thing of like, there is no reason to try to Man of Steelify this character. We can just enjoy Superman the way he should be. So
yeah. So
I mean, that is hopeful. I don't know what the plot is, but because we'll be talking about Batman in a second, I'm sure. But one thing I find intriguing, a little concerning, since all of these are going to tie together, right? Superman Legacy is supposed to be sort of beginning of his career. Mm-hmm. And the whole movie could be a flashback. That's true. But it seems that if the Batman movie he's talking about is Batman with Damien,
right,
who's the most recent Robin, his son, is this another example of like Superman's the newbie and Batman's been around for a while?
I know.
Or is in the DC Universe movies, was there never another Robin? Was there never a Dick Grayson or, Jason Todd or any of that? I don't know. I can't read his mind, but it's
this was one of my what?
Yeah.
reactions. I haven't read Grant Morrison's book with Damien Wayne in it. What's it called? Is it called Brave and the Bold? Is that Grant Morrison's title, or is it something
No,
else?
no. Brave and the Bold is an interesting name for his project, but no, Grant Morrison just wrote Batman.
Okay.
And the trade, when they put it together, where they introduce his characters called Batman and Son.
Okay.
But
But
that's
yeah,
not the name of the actual comic. It was just Batman.
because one of the things I was kind of looking forward to is like, oh, maybe we can finally get Dick Grayson done
I
properly.
know. But I think this is, I
Maybe we
think
will, but I mean, it's still kind of like, what?
this seems
What?
like some of this is his preferences. And
Mm.
I'm sure there's going to be a good story. I hope there's a good story, because he really, at the end of it, hypes or
Mhm.
harps on storytelling is all that matters to me. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But it does seem like he just likes that guy. He just likes Damien. He says, that's my favorite Robin. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, great. Well, I really like Dick Grayson.
I know.
But I mean, so some of this, and Authority as well, I think some of this is literally him going, this is my this is my toy box now, and these are my favorite toys. You have your favorites, but I'm the guy in charge.
Yeah.
I'm going to withhold judgment until I see these things. I was the same way with Snyder. I was like, all right, I don't know if this guy's going to do good or not. Let's wait and see. And then I hated everything. But
Okay. So, and then he gets into and I was kind of, my heart sank a little bit when he says this coming summer of 2025. Like,
I know, man.
but okay.
So it's young Superman. He says it's about young Superman trying to balance or find the balance between his Kryptonian heritage and his earthly life.
Okay, thank you. That was the
That
quote I was looking for just
that
now.
that's paraphrasing, and I would
Yeah.
say that is vague. I mean, it is
Which
something
it
you
should be
would.
at this point. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But it is something that is an early Superman kind of concern. And by the end of it, of course, he'll be like, just like in John Burns, when he redid Superman in the 80s, and his Man of Steel miniseries ended with Superman going, yeah, I'm Kryptonian by birth, but Jonathan Kent raised me. I'm just a guy from Kansas. I'm an Earthman and proud to be Clark Kent, kind of thing, and da da da. I'm sure that's what we'll get,
Yeah.
and hopefully
Yeah.
he'll also be punching Brainiac in the face.
Yeah. Gosh, please. What do you think he means by legacy? Because this is the one
I
thing
know
that
that I
kind of made some sense thinking about All Star Superman, because a lot of that story has to do with him protecting his legacy and making sure that these people, that the Earth's to be
yes,
taken
but
care of
legacy
after he's gone.
legacy is of course a loaded word, especially if you've admitted this is an early Superman story. Then you're like,
Right.
what
Yet another,
legacy?
what?
Well, I know, because I was also thinking, like, are they trying to set up John Kent, his son? Because that doesn't. That was my thought, even though he didn't say anything like that. I
Right.
was like, what
That would
I
be weird.
it
Yeah.
would be weird.
I
We're
mean,
kicking it
since he's
off.
already said it's supposed to be an earlier version of Superman.
Yes. So what I think is probably it's the legacy of Jor-El, and probably they might take a cue, and I wouldn't mind if they did, from the animated series. This would include Brainiac. What if it's a thing where, what if Jor-El had created Brainiac? Brainiac was a Kryptonian computer program, and so Brainiac comes to Earth and basically says, "Hey, you're the last Kryptonian. You belong with me. Your father created me," blah, blah. And he's like, no, 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 no. He's like, but you're powerful, more powerful than these people. You could be their leader or God. And he's like, no, no, no. I'm just basically, that spitballing that based on stuff they did in the animated series. So maybe Krypton or Jor-El or Brainiac connected to Krypton encroaches on what he thought his normal life was. And then he's forced to choose, like, like a Last Temptation of Christ thing. Only it's a Last Temptation of Kal-El, where he's like going, no, no, no. I want to be their friend and helper, and I want to walk amongst them, and I want to date Lois Lane, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
maybe something like that. That would be cool. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
What I was thinking is this. I'm sure this would be more of a meta kind of meaning for it. Is that?
Oh, I'm not ready. Hold on. Let me get. You're getting meta. I need a minute. Okay.
Well, I mean, just what we were hoping for. It's kind of what we were talking about the last episode, where it's meaning he's being respectful of the legacy version of Superman that we want to be restored. Instead of all the apologetic versions of him.
Yeah,
that we
that
want to
could
do away
very
with.
well be.
So, which is what Grant Morrison does in All-Star Superman. So,
yeah,
embraces everything from the past, almost pretty much everything.
Yeah,
in Superman's past. Okay, so then he gets into talking about the much talked about Green Lantern's HBO series, which I'm guessing now is changed. Like he went in, because this was already in pre-production anyway before he was hired. Then there was rumors around circling, he's canceled it, and he said false. Wrong. And now I think, I don't know if Hal Jordan was initially going to be part of it.
I don't think he was. I think
now it's Hal Jordan and John Stewart.
Yeah, I think maybe the original thing was they would have, in the original concept, I think Hal Jordan would drop in, but that actor they were going to be building a movie for him. So Hal Jordan would just be kind of like, hey, John, great to see you. Off to my movie. But now it seems like, no, they're both going to be in the show, and it's a cop show. It's which was the way it was pitched.
Which is like, yeah, okay. You were describing it that way when we were talking about the show a few weeks ago.
James Gunn is doing a good job of like, I'll talk to the fans who know the shit already, but for the people who don't, he's like, so he does say it's like, it's a police procedural with a couple of cops who their beat is Precinct Earth. And I'm like, well, that's cute.
True Detective is the analogy.
Oh yeah, True Detective. Yeah. Which that's weird. I just see Hal Jordan go, time is a flat circle. All right, that's good, Hal. Thanks a lot. Actually, a young Matthew McConaughey, I always thought would have been a great Hal Jordan. I mean, Hal Jordan is not Southern, or Texan, but Hal Jordan, that kind of a little bit of cockiness. I was always like, yeah, that's good, Hal. That's good.
That would be. I mean, thinking about, I had forgotten that about. Yeah, that was the first season of that show, right? Was it the first season that he was in?
First season was
a
good season,
which was excellent. Yeah, and to think about it from that,
him and Woody Harrelson.
Ooh, that now I'm even more excited about that now. I'd forgotten.
No, I mean, I think it's an interesting and great take. It'll be expensive as fuck, because especially if Green Lantern, I always thought you do that as a movie because it's going to require that kind of a budget. If you turn it into a series where every week the guy's flying around and creating giant whatevers with his ring, I hope they're ready to spend some dough. But it's called Lanterns, which I do like too. In my old script a million years ago, the whole Green Lantern thing was the press. And he's like, I never said my name is Green Lantern. I'm the lantern of this sector. And the press is the one calling me Green Lantern. Well, obviously the color is green. Like, because no one would walk up and go, hello, I'm Green Lantern. It's like, no. These are the Lantern Corps. It's the Lanterns. Right. Putting the color in front of it's dumb. Right, Blue Beetle?
Right.
Okay, yes. I am a beetle who is blue. Oh, God. Okay. Right, Black Lightning. Oh, that gets into a whole thing.
I love you see Swamp Thing getting pissed off about Swamp. Well, obviously I'm in a swamp.
I am more than a thing. Green Arrow. What if I used an arrow that was black? Would that throw everybody off? Uh-oh.
Okay, so then he gets into something he's very excited about. Yeah. Which, another thing I'm not familiar with, but I'm all for it. The Authority.
Yes.
Have you?
I love the Authority. I love the Authority.
I got a lot of reading to do.
Yeah. Early Authority is great. It kept going, and it's one of those series that had a great concept, and then really good writer after really good writer took it over. So they kept bending it around. But the original concept, the main reason why I'm like, really? The Authority? Jimbo? Is because the Authority, in a way, is like a commentary on superhero groups. It's from the late 90s, or actually, towards the late 90s and then into the 2000s. So, and in a weird way, he's giving us a Justice League, not parody, but he's giving us a commentary on the Justice League before we even get a Justice League, which is why I'm sitting there going, you want to deconstruct something that you haven't constructed yet, because they are all very, it's a very Vertigo-ish, grown up, slightly cynical version of a superhero team. They all have odd powers. Two of them are literal transpositions of Superman and Batman. You have Apollo, who is basically a superpowered sun energy driven guy who is their most powerful member, and you have the Midnighter, who's great. I mean, all these characters are great, don't get me wrong. I love the Authority. It just seems a weird to bring them in before we have a proper Justice League. Seems weird. The Midnighter is the world's best fighter, and he wears all black. The big edgy 90s thing was Apollo and the Midnighter are a couple. So they are like a gay couple who, I'm not that that's ever made like a big thing of, but it's kind of an interesting commentary. You've got like Batman and Superman sort of in a relationship as members of the Authority. The Authority's a great comic. It just feels like a weird, and I know why he's excited. It's a James Gunn take
It's
on the
right up
Justice
his
League.
alley. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is worthy. Like, in other words, I would love to see an Authority movie. I just would rather see a Justice League movie done well before we get an Authority.
Well,
It
makes me
seems
wonder,
like cart before the horse.
Yeah. Which again seems like a very James Gunn thing to do.
I think so.
Just because it's cart before the horse. It's like, I like carts.
Yeah, I think that's it. And
James Gunn is trying to tell us, the cart's
I think
cool.
he literally is just like, I want to do this just because I really like this. And you're like, you're in command, you can do that.
Yeah.
I just like, oh, all right.
What it makes me
just
think
means it pushes anything else that we want. Like, for instance, a Justice League or Teen Titans, but not Titans, kind of thing, farther back, so we get Authority stuff first.
What it makes me think, if the release order is what you are thinking it is, what he seems to be implying it is, and we don't have Justice League prior to this, but we get it after, it makes me wonder if in this canon, this new DCU canon, that the Justice League is formed in reaction to the events of the Authority.
It could be. The Authority their whole thing is they do go through the multiverse. In other words, their adventures take them through multiple universes. So when the Justice League and the Authority have met in the comics, originally it was just like they were intruders from another like universe, and the Justice League were like, dude, what's your problem? And they're like, we do what's necessary. And they're like, okay, well, we're the Justice League. Now, excuse me, I had chili. Now I think the whole thing is they, I swear to God, I don't live like in a real sketchy area, but every time we do this, there's always like a fire truck going by.
No episode of P-Saps would be complete without the arrival of our special guest.
What do you have to say, law enforcement? But I will say, I think that now in the DC universe, in fact, members of the Authority have become Justice League members. Like they're now like entrenched in the DCU. So Superman and Apollo exist, and they've hung out. And Midnighter has fought alongside Batman. Anyway, I mean, we don't know what they're thinking. I am not anti an Authority film. I'm just surprised that it's happening as part of a foundational stone for the DC universe films.
It is bizarre. This leads us into the next thing, which is also a bizarre thing I was not expecting. And for me, another is Paradise Lost. Yeah, which is a prequel series, I guess, set on Themyscira.
It doesn't need. Well, I guess maybe it is prequel. He didn't say what time period. It could be modern day, and there's just stuff happening on Paradise Island.
That's what everybody's describing it as online right now. So, but
because he brings up Game of Thrones.
That's right. And my reaction to this is very cynical, just because if it is actually a prequel series, we have not had good experiences with prequel series.
Yeah.
Or at least we've got prequel fatigue at this point. I would
Mhm.
like to say. I mean, we got the freaking Smallville and the Gotham and the Krypton and all this stuff that
I
some of which
actually
did
forgot
okay.
Krypton existed.
What's that?
I forgot Krypton existed till you said that.
Most people have no
Yeah.
idea it existed. Yeah.
I remember
I
watching
never
that
watched it.
thing. I watched a couple episodes and I was like going, that's not Adam Strange. And besides, Adam Strange is not a time traveler. That should be Rip Hunter, not fucking Adam Strange. And then I kicked the TV. But
Anyway.
no, yeah, Paradise Lost set on Themyscira, and I will say recently, a lot of this stuff does seem like James Gunn looking at some of the stuff that's coming out in the comics, which is good. You need to pay attention. And several writers there have been miniseries, and now there's actually an ongoing series with Nubia, who's one of the Amazons, and she is, I think it's like Nubia and the Wonder Women. So there have been more comics over the last 5 or 10 years focusing not on Diana, just Diana, but on other Amazons, which is great. I'm not sure that, I mean, I always want to see, it's like, yeah, bring on some Hippolyta, bring on some Artemis, bring on some Nubia, love them, they're great. But I really just want to see Diana, and I want to see that lasso and shit.
Is it not Hippolyta, not Hippolyta?
I know it's
Hippolyta sounds like a condition. I just
let your doctor know if you experience side effects from taking Hippolyta. I've
Okay.
always said Hippolyta because I am an uneducated Southerner. You are correct. No, you are absolutely correct. It's Hippolyta.
Okay.
That is something I've said since I was a kid, and I've had it corrected so many times. But as a kid reading those comics, I was like, Hippolyta. Anyway.
Okay.
So it could be good. Who knows?
Yeah,
But if
I'm
that's
kind
my
of banking
replacement
that
for
most
Wonder
of this
Woman,
stuff.
yeah, I'm like, I don't want just Amazons. I want Diana.
Yeah, I just hope it's not too the prequel thing about it. I just hope it's not too prequel-y.
What if it's just one season and the end of the season is the creation of Diana? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. Okay, so then we get into another, which we already touched on, is the Brave and the Bold, which is the Batman with Damian Wayne, based on the stories of Grant Morrison, which is the only time that Grant Morrison was mentioned in this. But he did hold up. He didn't hold it up, but he did start off. Superman Legacy. This is our representation of Superman Legacy. Also,
they
Grant Morrison.
edited in some graphics while he's talking. So they edited in a graphic from that run with Damian and Batman.
Yes, right.
And he's like, yeah, that's my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin. I'm like, yeah.
So I again, I don't know the story, and we already mentioned why we're skeptical or kind of questioning the choice to go with Damian first. But we have talked about Grant Morrison a lot on this, and I'm glad to see that they are that they are working with James.
Oh, sure.
As we assumed would be the case. They seem to be very tight. I'm assuming they've had meetings. So
it is a great run because it and I like Damian as a character. But what's weird is James Gunn, if I remember correctly, he says he's my favorite Robin. He's Batman's son, and he's a little assassin. And he goes, and this will be the building of the Batman family. I'm like Damian is first? Are we ignoring? Because I really want him to clarify. Does that mean there's only ever been one Robin and it will be Batman's son? If so, I need to have words with Mr. Gunn. I also am not a fan of 45-year-old Batman who's already had 18 Robins. It's like, start fresh. Maybe that will be the Matt Reeves stuff, the Elseworlds. Maybe we'll get a proper Dick Grayson over there. Who knows? But yes, Damian is his son via Talia al Ghul, longtime lover, daughter of Ra's al Ghul. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't know Damian existed. And she raised him with the League of Assassins, who she leads. So when he does meet his son, Damian is arrogant, he's violent, he doesn't understand mercy or any of that stuff, and he is a little assassin. And Batman's like, Talia, you've kind of warped our kid. I'm going to take him under my wing and teach him how to be a hero instead of this killer. And he's an arrogant dick of a Robin, which is refreshing. Like, he's always, and even Alfred's like, I don't know if I can handle that little punk. So it's good stuff, and it's about Bruce Wayne trying to be a father, even though he never has been, except for he has really kind of with Dick and all the other Robins. But yeah, weird place to start your DCU Batman.
Yeah,
Makes me do this with my head.
it is. It is strange. By the way you described that made me think of Christopher Walken. Like, what's the deal, Talia? What you've done with our son is not cool. Just the way like,
I
I
just
really want to
don't
see that
know
now.
why you'd want to. Damien doesn't seem like a good kid. Talia. I can't do it. I can't do it. But yes. And maybe that will be the shocking casting is when they say that Christopher Walken's our new Batman.
Okay, so
They
another
call you the
HBO series.
Joker, and I don't laugh at any of your jokes. Anyway, yes, another HBO Max series.
Then we move on to Booster Gold. Booster Gold, the HBO series, which I think we'd heard some rumors about. Or I guess we already knew it was happening, right?
No,
So we didn't? Okay.
I don't think I did.
But
I mean, I know there's a lot of there was always a lot of fan push for Booster Gold. He's a fun character. And he bounces between, he's another guy who's prime if you need a character who can bounce through time, or he's another comedy character, which isn't bad. Since we won't have the Blue Beetle that was his best friend, Blue Beetle, because the Blue Beetle we're getting the movie of is the newest one, the younger guy. But there could be some crossover there. And mainly, I think with Booster Gold, he'll be another good character that could team up. If they decide they want to have one of the movie guys, even our movie Superman, show up in a TV show, he would show up in Booster Gold and like tell him, Booster, please, for God's sake, stop embarrassing us. That kind of
and by the way, speaking of that, I hope they don't shy away from that the way that the MCU has.
Well, the
so far,
MCU, that was
having
that
movies
weird.
and TV shows crossover.
But it was really just because of legalities. I think Kevin Feige would have been totally cool years ago with having, Iron Fist and Luke Cage show up in the movies, but that Netflix and ABC, Marvel TV and Marvel Cinematic, they were not the same company. So things were pretty awkward.
So we've had a little bit of that in MCU, getting a little off track here, but like we've had Loki go from the movies into TV series.
Well, yes, because they've always Loki was immediately that show was Warner. I mean, was MCU.
Yeah. So obviously now that everything's under Disney Plus, there's a big much more possibility for that. But they haven't really gotten into it yet. So I'm hoping, like,
Falcon
for example,
and Winter Soldier,
please put Spider-Man in the Daredevil series. Please put him in there. That's because he needs to show up there. Just people seem to keep saying, "Oh no, that's DC Plus." I mean, that's DC Plus. That's Disney Plus. These are the movies.
Well, the trick with Spider-Man, Spider-Man's the tough one.
They need to be together.
Spider-Man's the tough one because he's still co-owned with Sony. They always have to shell out major money anytime Spider-Man shows up.
This is true, yeah.
But was there anything better than having Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home?
No.
When that showed up, man, the people in the theater lost their minds. I did.
It was a beautiful moment, yeah.
It was a beautiful moment.
One of many beautiful moments in that movie.
Yeah, that movie had plenty.
So anyway, I'm just saying, I want them to be all together. And
hey, you're preaching to the choir. Turns out I'm the choir.
So no TV movie or TV.
I don't want that division either. It'd be great if Superman showed up in Booster Gold.
Yes,
that's my vote.
Okay, so then this is one of my Supergirl. This is a book. This is a book I'm not familiar with.
It's very good.
Is it called Woman of Tomorrow? Is that what the book is called?
Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And here's the thing I want you to do. Homework.
Yes.
The writer Tom King, with maybe one exception, don't read Heroes in Crisis, which is a he mainly does miniseries. In other words, he doesn't do a lot of ongoings, but he is one of the best comics writers out there today. He did a Mr. Miracle miniseries, blow your mind. So good. He did over at Marvel, he did The Vision, and a lot, or at least some of WandaVision was kind of based on his Vision miniseries.
Oh,
So good. And over at DC, he did Batman and Catwoman. He did like a 12-issue series that was just about them and their relationship. It's the best Batman stuff I've read in a long time. Loved it. And he wrote Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and it's all contained. One trade, you're in, you're out, and it's just one of the best things. He makes her kind of James Gunn is taking stuff from that, but she is the one that's a little bit disconnected, and she ends up basically it's like a True Grit story where out in space, and Supergirl is called upon by a young alien girl who needs help, and so it's like Supergirl is just on her own being this wandering helper, and it's like, yeah, I'll show up and be your hero, because Tom King does sort of call on what James Gunn's mentioning. Her upbringing's totally different from Clark's. So Tom King did a smart thing of like, I don't want to make her just like the female Clark, because she did grow up on Argo City, which was a flying rock, and they're all dying anyway, spun off of Krypton. And it took her years before she gets to Earth and meets Kal-El and all that kind of stuff. So she, as he says, she's maybe more jaded, which is an interesting take.
yeah,
Superman's the more naive and sort of happy guy because he grew up with Mom and Pa Kent. And Supergirl, who you think is going to be the smiling, it's like, no, man, she's seen some shit.
hmm
So highly recommended read.
yeah.
Anything with his name on it is worth it.
Okay,
So Tom King.
that was the first thought I had of like all this stuff that was announced. It's like I got to get that book. So
Yeah. It's
no
really, really
argument
good.
there. And this finally he concludes with another yes, Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love the way they keep trying. Yeah. I love the way they keep trying. And he's mentioning it being a horror
Yeah,
book, because even Alan Moore, for as far out as he did, Alan Moore kept it a horror book with a romance at the center of it, which I'm sure James Gunn's going to include Abby. But Swamp Thing, they've never really
Brendan
got.
face.
No, I mean, that's my face of like, why wouldn't you? What are you,
Yeah.
idiot?
But
So yeah,
do her properly this time, not
that's what I'm saying. Not a cop.
not a cop.
Like, just follow the blueprint that Alan Moore left you. It's a
Yeah.
brilliant blueprint. You don't have to do all of his stories, but he gave you what you need to make a good Swamp Thing. And he's such a great character. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I hope I was kind of because I really enjoyed the series.
It was much better than all the previous attempts.
So much better. And what I hope is that this movie, obviously, I'm sure it won't just be one movie, but I think Swamp Thing is
was
one
it
of those.
A movie or was it? I thought it was
I think it's a movie,
a series.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Is like Swamp Thing's one of those characters who's uniquely, I think, suited for a series because there's so much to go over with him.
And he ties in with so many, like a lot of the supernatural elements of the DCU.
So that's what I'm hoping is that if it is a movie first, that they do a series eventually, or at least they do a lot of movies. But yeah, I would love to hear
a lot of movies.
I want movies and series. Just give me a lot of Swamp Thing. I love Swamp.
Yeah, no.
So I was very happy about that. There's a bunch of things I was really hoping for. Firestorm was one, which I'm sure we're getting Firestorm, but just not yet. But Swamp Thing was one of the ones at the top of my list that I really wanted, especially since that series was so good and did not get the justice it deserved.
It didn't.
Being prematurely canceled. Anyway, so that's it so far. And that's
wait, was that the whole?
That's where he stopped, was with Swamp Thing. Yeah. So wow.
So there. No, I do think it's an ambitious slate. It has a lot of surprises that I wasn't anticipating. I really thought, even with James Gunn, who is going to be a wild card, I really did expect a kind of fresh ground level. We're building the core, and we didn't get that. So it's interesting. I'm very happy about Green Lanterns, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very happy about Superman, Supergirl, and a new Batman. Even the Damien stuff has me like going, huh? But
Yeah.
with DC, which has, I saw someone, because he does respond to those people on Twitter. It's amazing. Someone's like going, it doesn't matter what James Gunn announces because they can't ever compete with Marvel because they don't have the what was it? They don't have the bench, the deep bench of characters. And James Gunn's like going, I'm sorry, DC Comics?
uh,
Is that what you're talking about? It's been
yeah.
around like almost a century.
Yeah.
Not a deep bench. And you know James Gunn's writing that thinking Creature Commandos. You know that's
Yeah.
in his head. No, DC never has a problem. You'll never run out. It's just it's very telling these are the characters he wants to start off with, because I would have, if they give me the job, I would have just said, dude, I know it sounds simplistic, but let's get a really good Superman launched.
Yeah.
Let's get a good Wonder Woman launched. Let's get, we need to have Flash, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. These are your big characters. Let's get Hawkman. Let's get these guys um, up and running, and then let's worry about the ancillary.
Yeah.
Because
Because
most of the fans have been waiting for the big ones to be done right, and they never have. That's the
right.
thing.
And there's also stuff like you mentioned, the Flash and Aquaman. Those are ones that if he is going to redo them, which I'm pretty sure he will eventually, he can't talk about it yet because they
That's
still have
true.
these movies coming out.
Yeah.
So I really am hoping we do get a
And with
new
Jason Momoa
Aquaman.
saying, I'm still always going to be your Aquaman, it is possible. The thing with the multiverse is, John was talking about this. He goes, you can't keep the same actors because people will be confused. And I'm like, think that's true. Because as we know, Charlie Cox keeps saying to people, the Daredevil that you'll see on Disney Plus when it's Daredevil Born Again, he's
Mhm.
like, that's not going to be the same as Netflix. He's like, I am playing him. And so, yes, Momoa may actually end up being Aquaman in future films where he's, hanging out with that Superman, the new Superman, whatever. But he doesn't have to be Snyder's take. He can still be Jason Momoa, same actor. So I could see them doing that where it's like, yeah, no, it's your same guy. We're just going to ignore all that. Okay. Just ignore all that. But here's the new adventures of Jason Momoa, Aquaman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But yes, I am excited. I am, and I said this before. It's like I trust him, and I'm just going to see what happens. And it might still end up being not what I want, but you can't please everybody. And if there's one group that's hard to please, it's old entrenched fans. And that's
Yeah.
me. Been reading these comics since I was a wee sprite in the 1970s. So I've seen these characters mutated, changed, altered a million times over, and sometimes it's great and often it's not. And I just sit there going, will I ever get one like a Superman that's like, that is working on all fronts? Quite possibly never.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I've got an ideal in my head.
yeah. Right. Right. So total change of character subject. But this is just my ignorance on Booster Gold.
Duh,
I know.
that's my impression of you on Booster Gold.
Oh,
Duh.
fair cop. Well, he comes from the future. I know that much.
Yes,
I'm assuming it's a different. It's not the same time that the Legion of Superheroes come from.
it is.
It is the same.
Yeah, here's, well,
Cool. Because
um,
that was my next thing I was
no,
asking. Is like,
yeah,
can we get in the
okay.
Legion?
He's not from the same. I'm sorry.
Oh,
He's
damn
from
it.
he's from a little before it, but
Okay.
they already do have like science police, which that's the name of the police force in the Legion. So in other words, it's like before, but still the deal. His story is he was a pro ball player. like a future version of football. And he was a star player, but he ends up getting, and Booster is his nickname. Like his name is Michael, but Booster was his nickname. He gets embroiled in he's a crooked player. Like he gets caught betting on his own games or something, or throwing. So he gets disgraced, kicked out of professional sports, and he ends up being a night guardsman at a science police museum that has a. Oh wait, no, it has to be from the Legion. It is from the Legion period, because in the museum he finds old tech, and also they have a display of Legion stuff, including a Legion flight ring. So basically, what he does is, and Rip Hunter's time bubble, Rip Hunter Time Master. So they've got one of his time machines. He steals a bunch of stuff from the museum that will give him powers, and goes back to the past. He has no superpowers. He has like a fancy suit that he stole. He has the flight ring so he can fly. So he's wearing a Legion flight ring. He's got all this stuff. And so he shows up in the past saying like, I'm your new hero, Booster Gold. And basically he is a glory hound. He ends up selling his likeness. He ends up being like a spokes character for a bunch of things. He starts having company labels on his costume because he's like, and it's funny. And he does become a real hero, but Superman is one of the first people he meets, because he goes back to Metropolis in the past. And Superman's like going, "You're from the future?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You're wearing a Legion flight ring." He goes, "Are you in the Legion?" Gotta go. Stuff. And he has this AI flying robot named Skeets, who was also from the future, who was part of the museum and went with him. And Skeets is always like, "Michael, you're screwing up the past. You're messing with the timeline. Stop it." And he's like going, "Shut up, Skeets." It's good stuff. I love that character.
It's an unfortunate name.
Skeets. Yeah, Skeets. Oh yeah, that became
name
a
does
whole
not
other
age
thing.
well. But I'm all for it. As the Legion of Superheroes is one of those old goofy things from the 70s. Or I guess
Did
the
you
60s.
see that cartoon series they had a few years ago?
No, and I know the Legion
they had a good one.
They had the Legion showed up in the CW too, but I never saw that. I remember hearing about it. I'm sure it was lame. But
I wrote a script for Smallville. I wrote a spec script introducing the Legion. Yeah.
Okay. I think I have a vague memory. You told me that.
It never, got to anyone's eyes. But I figured out a way to do them low budget for Smallville. I was like, okay.
But anything that can pave the way to Composite Superman, I'm all for. Especially if they do it exactly the way.
You will not rest until you get Composite Superman.
The little figurines that are imbued with the powers of each of the members of the Legion, right? Do you remember this? Or am I making this up from?
No, well, I mean, there's.
I thought that was how Composite Superman got his powers initially. It's because he absorbed the powers from those figurines.
I don't believe so. It sounds like you're mixing a lot of stuff together. There's Prody. Prody is a member of the Legion, and Prody can become different members of the Legion. And in fact, for a long time was pretending to be Lightning Lad, I think, and then he sacrificed himself, and they're like, "Lightning Lad's dead." Nope, that was just Prody. Prody's dead.
I gotta swear, I dreamt this.
Superman is not from the future.
No, he's not. But the story I remember seeing when I was a kid was Superman had been gifted these little miniature figurines of the Legion by the Legion.
Okay, please remember us. So let's give you these figurines that have our powers.
I think was his name Brainiac 5? The Brainiac 5 had taken these. They were like essentially copies of themselves that were shrunk down, but they all had enough of their atomic structure or something that they actually imbued the powers of each member of the Legion. And then something happened with whoever, I can't remember the name of the Composite Superman's original identity, but something happened. It was like one of those flash accidents where he happens to be in the presence of these figurines, and there's like lightning strikes or something, and then he gets all of their powers.
That is such a Bronze Agey kind of storyline. Right. And also, let's not forget Amazo. Speaking of people that have all the powers but that's the Justice League. Amazo, the android, who has all the powers of the Justice League. It's always interesting. In other words, like if Superman shoots him with his heat vision, that was a big mistake because now he's got Superman's heat vision. So it's always a thing where the only thing you can take down Amazo is like Green Arrow shows up and says, "You can't steal powers from me, and my arrow will go into your eye." But yeah, and Batman something like, "Well, he can't duplicate a batarang." That kind of stuff. It's always the non-power guys going, "Hey, you heavy hitters, stop fighting him because every time now he's as fast as the Flash." Great, thanks, Flash.
Anyway,
Amazo. All right.
I don't really want to see Composite Superman,
Yeah,
by
you
the way. I know
do.
I keep
It's your
talking about it.
dream. Green skin guy with half Batman, half Superman.
But I do want to see the Legion. I think that would be really cool to see those.
Agreed.
That's something that those are fun characters, and it would be goofy, but
Here's what
I
they
think it'd
should
be
do with the
fun.
Legion. I mean, animation is probably the easiest way to go, but I would aim it at older folks. I would aim it at teens because that's what the Legion is. Or I would do it as a live action series, but it needs to be a series because the Legion, the reason people love the Legion, and it had one of the strongest fandoms of DC, especially through the 70s and 80s, up until like Teen Titans took over, is that it was a soap opera. I mean, it had a lot of great superhero stuff going on, but it was all about who's dating who. And it's like the heartbreak of this character, stuff that they didn't get in Superman. You know, it was like, oh, this is great. I'm pulling for Bouncing Boy. He's gonna hook up with Triplicate Girl. And he did. Yeah. 3. She could turn into 3. And then one of them died and she became Duo Damsel.
Really?
Yeah, one of her triplicates died, and then she had to become Duo Damsel, so she could only split into 2 of herself.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty heavy.
I know.
They should
People
do that.
died in Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Pharaoh Lad. Never forget Pharaoh Lad, Chad. He sacrificed himself for the whole Legion.
Pharaoh, Ferro.
Yeah. He basically was in like an Iron Man looking suit.
He took iron supplements.
He took iron supplements. He had an amazing, his blood, just very strong blood. Well, I'll see you in 2025, Chad.
Right.
We'll be there opening night of Superman Legacy.
I'm just
Actually, let's make a plan. Wherever we are, let's try to be in the same city and go see the premiere.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go see the premiere of Superman Legacy. You heard it here first, folks. I've just guilted Chad into agreeing to be seen with me in public in 2 years.
Yeah. So it almost feels a little underwhelming now, just because I'm like, we've been waiting for this news for so long, and now I'm like, well,
now we never have to say James Gunn again.
How long before we get the next little piece of information? So
yeah, that's true. At this point, I mean, the next things we'll be talking about will be the Shazam movie and all the stuff. And, you know, I don't wish them to do poorly, but they are, and I try not to think of them this way, but they are the last gasps of a bad run of movies from a poorly thought out Snyderverse.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, come at us, Snyder Bros. Man, I saw so much Twitter stuff with like going, when James Gunn announces the slate tomorrow, this is going to be the look on all the Snyder Bros faces. And it's like shots of them like laughing, like, ha ha ha, James Gunn, you're an idiot. And because apparently no one's going to be pleased unless Snyder's able to come back and do more of his nonsense. He gave us this. Someone's like going, I don't care how good James Gunn's Superman is. He'll never give us a moment as majestic as this. And then they showed the one good scene in Man of Steel, which is him taking flight, which is an amazing scene.
Oh, yeah.
I will not fight you that there's some beautiful cinematography and gorgeous Superman stuff in Man of Steel. It's just a shit show of a movie. Yeah. But I'm like going, yeah, that's amazing. Superman taking flight and Man of Steel is great. Yeah. Henry Cavill looking to the sun and absorbing the light and then flying. Sure. Love it.
Sure.
Too bad the movie was shit.
Yeah. And that there were moments in Batman, I've talked about it before, in Batman v Superman that were actually good. You know, but just moments.
Yeah. Moments. Again, I still can't believe they made an entire movie out of a legal battle. Batman v Superman, I just can only picture Superman sitting in like the witness box and so they're going, he did express his displeasure with what happened between myself and the Kryptonian villains. I don't believe that I should be held responsible in the eyes of Mr. Wayne. Sorry, Batman, for what occurred on that horrible day. Thank you. And next, we're calling up Batman. First, I'd like to address that I am not Bruce Wayne, and that alien freak, he brought all kinds of shit down. Don't like him. Don't like him at all.
Yeah.
I am the Knight. That was my dramatic recreation of Batman v Superman, a movie I still have not seen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, Chad, what's next for you?
What's next for me?
Yeah.
Well, I've got to work on a website, and then I've got to go do some stuff.
Man, you really, you know what you do? You paint a picture for me. You really did. I saw a whole day for you right there. That's okay. Yeah. I need to write things and eat lunch and probably watch a terrible movie for my other podcast that I do with John. This week, I get to watch Modern Vampires from the 1997, I believe. It's a vampire movie, and we're covering it on the podcast tomorrow.
Have there been any good movies in this run yet for this?
The 90s have been tough, man. But the 90s also had Bram Stoker's Dracula. Okay. We have The Mummy coming up. I'm looking forward to that. Brendan Fraser's The Mummy is a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, there have been a few good ones, but man, has it been a slog of bad. We're just like sitting there going like week to week. Oh, God, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we watch Bordello of Blood? Anyway,
So to wrap up, you gave me homework.
I did. Tom King.
Tom King. That's it, right?
Tom King.
Just the Supergirl.
Supergirl, right. But I recommend everything the man's done.
Okay, I'm going to read Is The Authority a series of books?
It's many trades. I would say just read the first trade. For one thing, gorgeous art, Brian Hitch. But also, it just gets the idea across of what their whole thing is. We're going universe to universe, and we're not nice superheroes. We're going to correct what's wrong by any means necessary.
Okay.
That's why they're the Authority. Okay. So on that note, I'll see you next week.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right.
I don't know what we're going to talk about next week.
Whatever. I'll come up with something.
We have nothing else to talk about now.
Chad, drink some coffee. All right. We'll figure something out. I actually do have a couple ideas, but we'll talk about it later. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye.